Hi, Chris. We're here with Chris Piazza, and we come to see your studio. And boy, this is a great place, and these pieces are extraordinary. Can you tell us anything about this one here? This is great.
Sure. This piece is called The Cabbage Eater, and all of the pieces are based on characters from the Commedia dell'arte, which is sort of the origin of Western theater. And it consists of a series of characters. This one is Pulcinella, and he evolved into Punch, the character of Punch that most people think of, Punch and Judy. And I based this one very much on the figure of Punch with his nice belly, his peas-cod belly there. They're all rod puppets, but they're jointed. That's a type of puppet, a rod
Can you
puppet.
show us what it looks like?
Let me just move him for you.
Okay. Oh, great. All right. Watch from the side here.
He's got nice, slender arms.
Wow, beautiful.
The costume's completely beaded, and I do all of the work myself. The entire costume. Let me see. He's a harvest figure. I always take some kind of metaphor that I'm interested in and kind of go with it. Right. The character's just the jumping off point, like a frame for a canvas, and then from that. There's certain limits. I always make the boxes tall and vertical, and you can see them all the way around four sides. And I like the idea of pieces being behind glass. It creates an immediate museum. They're all essentially now made precious. Anything behind glass is usually precious.
Well, this piece is definitely precious. How do you get this face? It's so beautifully done.
They're paper mache, but I've developed a technique for working with paper mache that just where I sort of age it and add certain glues, so it makes it's a lot of work still.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
The hands and the feet are also paper mache,
Wow.
and the body's basically a costumed armature. But those are all antique beads. I like to work with a lot of antique material. The outside of the box, I was always interested in tramp art, and that's an old, actually a German carving technique. It's chip carving, and hobos, generally, people associated with hobos, who used to ride the rails around the turn of the century in the teens and 20s. They'd make these little frames and tiny little pieces of furniture with this chip carving business going on. And they'd exchange them with the housewives at the farms for a meal or a place to stay, Wow. And it was the way they got around. Now, this is a very collectible art form, and I've always admired it, so I decided to take on doing a tramp art piece. I will never do it again. It was a huge amount of work.
Oh, this one here.
Unbelievable amount of work. It looks very simple.
Mm-hmm.
But,
yeah, I was going to say, compared to some of these other pieces that we're going to see.
Well, those those well choreographed dance routines look like nothing, but you kill yourself to do them.
Right.
Fred Astaire routines.
Right, you try to bend like the other.
Yeah, but that was him. I saw the similarity between the chip carving and him. But anyway, that's that gentleman.
Beautiful. Okay. Right.
And this one over here, this is Froggy Moore. And the name comes from a song by King Oliver's jazz band, 1914. Louis Armstrong actually plays on that song, and I was so crazy about the song. It's just this charming toy-like tune. And I don't know how these things, that was sort of the trigger for the piece, but I wanted to make something that was kind of like Puck, like Froggy, like a little figure that lives in the forest or the woods. And so that's what I did here. The costume is made out of horsehair, old horsehair, and that was what used to stiffen the sleeves and the hems of 1930s dresses, ladies' dresses. And the little things that you see sticking out there that are to suggest lily pads are really the top, the celluloid, early plastic tops of ladies' belt buckles. And there's the wax Edelweiss are from Austria, turn of the century. But anyway, the costume was really sort of an homage to Adrian, who was the costume designer for a lot of great Hollywood wear, fantastic stuff, and mostly The Wizard of Oz. People think of those fabulous costumes in The Wizard of Oz.
Wow.
And the box is really, I wanted to do something with wire work. This is what tinkers used to do, Slovakian wire work around the turn of the century. These guys would go around and a tinker's dam means a patch in your tin pot. And, but they were making all these wonderful things, and they actually set up factories in France to make these beautiful things, just coat hangers and wonderful stuff. So I wanted to kind of take that on. And so this is sort of like a bird cage, a gazebo, everything sort of about something that would live under the porch.
Yeah.
And the paint is extremely flat. It's milk paint, which is a protein-based paint. And essentially milk paint, a version of milk paint, is what they used on old barns. Lasts forever, but it's not, by today's standard, it's very, very flat. I just love this quality. Anyway, so that's this gentleman.
Very, very good. Very nice. Thank you.
Now this guy, everybody's crazy about this guy.
He's huge. What a huge box you got him in, too.
Well, this
How
guy,
tall is that?
this is 10.5 feet tall. That's basically the limit of what I can do here in this studio.
Limited by your own studio.
Limited by my
and yet
studio.
you got a great place here.
I'm building a rocket ship now downstairs.
You're going to have to break through the floor so you can build it up, right?
Well, we've got it. I'm looking at you.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
I'm making a rocket ship for a piece. If we have time, I'll show you the prints over there. But that can only go up. It was trying to figure out the proportions for something that can go up to 10.5 feet tall. That's it. All right. So now this gentleman here is called Mr. Black, the footman. And the inspiration for this piece was these. These are old foot treadles, cast iron foot treadles from sewing machines. And there was a wonderful old hardware store in Lower Manhattan owned by a gentleman named Artie Alexander, who I was just so fond of. And I went in there trying to find rim locks to repair the locks on an old house. He had the original rim locks in the boxes, still wrapped in the paper, but he took me upstairs into this incredible warehouse of worthless stuff. And that's where I found these things. They were so beautiful. I thought, what could I possibly do with them? So they just kind of sat in my mind for a while. I bought them, stored them, thought about them, and then I thought, make a piece based on feet, shoes, something like that. So I found these antique shoelaces, and I made the piece with the shoelaces, the wrappers from the shoelaces, and those are buttons from high button shoes. And so the whole metaphor, of course, the footman.
Shoes, right.
Yes.
Shoes for the footman.
Now,
there's the buttons. We see them now.
Yeah,
Like
and you see the
right
little
now.
man, the beaded tip man, tipping his hat.
Yep, there he is.
So charming.
Yep.
Anyway, this guy is based on the captain from the Commedia, and the captain is usually taking somebody on in an immediate fight. They're all kind of, got temperamental characters. But the captain, he is convinced that he can win any battle, and of course he's going to run away as soon as you raise your hand. But that's him. Everybody loves him.
Oh, he's
the
gorgeous.
charm boy.
Yeah. Wins over
Debonair.
all their hearts, huh?
Yes, heartbreaker. Okay, this one's called Pearly.
Okay.
And Pearly is Pedrolino. Froggy's also Pedrolino, which evolved into Pierrot. Everybody thinks of Pierrot, but that was actually Molière who came up with that version.
Molière
of
was
him.
great. What a fun. All the plays I see are always fun.
Yeah, just absolute Broadway material, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah, okay. Well, this guy, I love that character. I love that figure, this eternal melancholic. And I had this bunch of antique buttons, and so it seemed natural to do something based on the British Pearlies. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but it's the Pearly royalty. They, around the turn of the century, they started making these costumes. It was really the street sellers who would do this. They'd cover their costumes with pearl buttons, and of course it's royalty. Everything British has to have, a tinge of royalty or lack of royalty.
Buskers used to do that too. They had pins all over them.
Yeah,
or something
yes,
like that.
yes. I think it's a fairly common thing, though. These folks went for broke with it, and so he's based on that. And his head is actually sort of based on an old, an image off of a catchpenny print, an old English catchpenny print.
Ooh.
So
Absolutely.
I'm extremely fond of him. I adore this guy.
A flashy guy.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, now this one, this is the latest one that's done. This is the gardener to the Illuminati. And the Illuminati, he's also known as licensed electrician, okay? I wanted to make a gardener, and I put him in this gardening shed, okay? But it was like, well, what's he going to garden? And I thought, well, he'll garden electricity. Now, the perfect metaphor for that is the Illuminati, which was sort of a sect of the Masons, in a sense. And around the Enlightenment, the development of the encyclopedia, and the separation from the church.
Very dignified looking one.
Isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. So this, you know, it was a lot of those things that I was sort of thinking about playing with. I'm always kind of wandering around, you know, semi knowledgeable about everything, but just kind of playing with this stuff. But anyway, so the Illuminati, a lot of people still think that it's around, like conspiracy theorists. But then I thought, well, if he's gardening electricity, then what do you use for the box? And of course, then I decided on copper because that's the conduit for electricity. So the reason for the electricity is that his costume is made out of mica, which was electrical insulation. These came from old electrical plugs years ago. And so he's wearing a costume of minerals. But the whole piece started with what's around his neck, the collar, and the little, you know, at the top of his pants and the caps. It was less than a yard of a piece of fabric that came from a place in Midtown Manhattan that they don't have too much of it, well, I suppose they still do, leftovers from places like the Ziegfeld Follies. And I've been going there for years, there and a couple of other places, and buying these wonderful little bits. And the gal who runs this particular place, this thing was lying on the floor, and I said, oh my God, that's the most beautiful thing. It was like a piece of just junk. She said, oh, you like that? The glitter was falling off of it. It's glass glitter, and she gave it to me. And it was this precious rag that then, when I saw the mica, I thought, oh, now this is a marriage. And we made these flowers, glass beaded flowers, and I dyed them with aniline dyes to get these very subtle shades. And then the whole thing is copper leafed, and then this is all treated with chemicals. This is refrigerator tubing usually goes in ice making.
So almost everything's recycled or antique already put in there, right? This is all ecologically sound.
Yes, this is all very ecologically sound.
Okay. Right.
I'll show you some things here.
Maybe Exxon should buy these.
Here, let me show you this piece back here.
Okay.
This is a real nice. This is Fritz, and this is what we're working on now. Myself and my assistant.
Are we learning how to make the heads then? Look at this.
Well, I'll show
They're
you the
making
beginnings
pieces.
of the heads, but
Right.
here's the beginning of a piece.
Right.
This is Fritz, and this is his head. This will be the pole he's on eventually, but this is his body, and this one is going to be a little different. Instead of making the armature, okay, his body is going to be made up of a combination of these tubes going around like this, and these tubes are made up of tubes of sequins, and these sequins are gelatin. They're made out of gelatin. If you put water on them, they'll dissolve.
Wow.
They're from the turn of the century. And I believe that what was left of these might have been purchased by the Smithsonian. So anyway, so that's going to be his center, and it's sort of like a battery or a stick of dynamite. And he'll have these long, skinny arms and legs. This is the first one. It's coming along here. And he'll have a hat. This is his hat. And this is another piece of junk that I found. And the hat is really going to be like a great big candle. And there'll be little flames coming out of the top. So it's sort of a cross between Davy Crockett and a candle. So he's going to be like 7 feet tall. And these beautiful antique glass beads will be wired and turned into flames coming out of the top, and little like sparklers coming off of his costume. This gentleman is called Fritz, and he's based on Fred Astaire doing his firecracker dance in Holiday Inn. And he's going into that rocket ship that I described that's going to be covered with aluminum, and it'll be sort of like a soapbox derby. You'll be able to see him on all four sides,
Right.
but it'll be like a Buck Rogers rocket ship.
Wow. Great imagination there.
That's what we're working on now.
Okay.
Do you want to see any more?
Yeah, on the other side you had like bits and pieces, and show us how you...
Let me show you some of these others. I'm working on, at the same time that I'm working on that, I'm working on a piece called The Geometry Professor.
Okay.
And that's going to be based on constructivists, Russian constructivists, Mayakovsky, Rodchenko, and Tatlin. And there'll be elements of each one of what they are most well known for in this piece that's going to be completely off-center. It has to be structurally sound,
Okay.
but not, revolutionary. This is the way they start. This is the beginning of jelly. Okay. There are pieces of puppets all over this place under construction, but this beautiful broken up Venetian mirror, recently I got this from a friend who used to be in the antiques business, and this is going to be the top of a piece called The Snowshoe Salesman, and this is the gentleman who sells shoes to the Snow Queen, and that's from Hans Christian Andersen's tale. These are the 3 shoes that he's going to be holding in his hand. It's like a girl group. Oh, somebody's calling. We're having a party later.
Okay.
These are the 3 shoes he's going to be holding. The entire box is going to be things suggesting powder, snow, Durham's coconut, Kirkman's washing flakes, things like that. And let me see if I can, this will be his middle. His torso is going to be made up of this North Pole freezer, which used to be used to make ice cream. Okay, and he'll be wearing this wonderful, wonderful greatcoat with a great big collar and long, wonderful with great big pockets.
Right.
Made out of a sleigh blanket, dark blue, and the box will have a lot of mirrors on it, but there'll be a snowdrift, and the snowdrift all around the top and the bottom is going to be made out of ladies' shoes. These exact same shoes, but now just covered with what's called mirror flake, which is ground mirrors and things suggesting snow and ice and things like that. And then scattered all over these mounds of ladies' shoes that really are a snowbank are going to be old jewelry samples that I picked up from a store that was going out of business that are from the 30s and that still have their original tags on them.
Wow.
So this is your average salesman just having hit the North Pole.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow, these pieces they have so much history already built into them.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do. It's actually I'm not really trying. I don't know that I'm trying to do anything, but I've always loved these beautiful things, and I really, on a certain level, don't think I can do better than them. So I've always wanted to, as a collage artist, which is what I really think of myself as, to really show respect for the material. Let me show you one, for example. I got these from a wonderful old man upstate. He's wonderful, sells wonderful things. And these are cucumber labels. Okay?
Okay.
They're so wonderful. I have about 1,000 of them. And so what I'm going to do is make a piece called Mr. Maybell, the Cucumber Salesman. And the only thing will be his costume, which will be a nice little suit with a top hat. And the inside of the box and the outside of the box will be covered with cucumber labels. So it'll be just this glorious representation of whoever came up with this fantastic design. I can't beat this. Can't possibly beat the enthusiasm in these colors. And there's a lyricism and a loveliness to these things, and they come from our past. Okay. This is my history. So that's what I'm...
Well, you have a fabulous eye to be able to spot this stuff out and then actually come up with projects that like make it into something else.
It's interesting because they kind of, it's a gestation, really, because I'm working with figures, personalities, and so it really is like a slow gestation, a slow development of a little guy.
Right. Yeah, just like those cucumbers. So you already got the idea. Now something that probably comes into your mind on how to make it into
there
something.
Are so many that I have a number of them that I'm working on. I have everybody looking for Niagara Falls postcards for me because I want to do a piece sort of an homage to Eddie Cantor.
Okay, all right.
And I've got quite a few of them now. But
Wow.
it's a joy to find the stuff, and not such joy to produce the pieces because they're very labor intensive, extremely slow. And anyone who has worked with me knows that I'm generally complaining as I'm working on them.
Wow,
It's going,
well, the detail
I gotta get
in
out
it,
of this. I gotta stop doing
the
this. Yeah.
detail in it is amazing.
Yeah, it's
There were some other pieces over on the other side. Like, what were those about?
over here.
Yeah.
Well, I can walk you through some of these
Okay.
things that are being worked up here. Well, this is the geometry professor. This is the one that's being. This actually gives you an idea of what these things are like. Maybe here, I don't know where would be a good place for him.
Well, that's good right there.
Right here.
Yeah.
Well, you can see he's being gessoed right now.
Right.
This is the paper mache with the layers of gesso going on. It's built up, and then sanded and built up, sanded. I mean, it goes on forever. The glass eyes are already in there. These are German hand-blown glass eyes. And he's going to be painted like a Chinese puppet eventually with spots of color. I was asking a friend of mine recently, where do you get that fabulous pink that all the girls are wearing in their hair? She said, go to Ricky's. Oh, am I not supposed to do advertising?
No, that's okay. We like Ricky's. It's a great place. It's got the coolest stuff, I think, in the city. You're talking about Ricky's with all the, like, he has all the trick stuff in there. And
Yeah,
all that.
oh God, I'll have to go. I haven't been there
He's
yet.
amazing.
Well, his hair is going to be this white kind of tuft going up here, and I wanted to paint it with that pink. His costume, once his body is formed, you know, really covered with layers of the padding that gives this wonderful feel, then he's going to be covered with flat pieces of cardboard covered with some antique silk that I got years ago. It's almost magical the way these things come together because this place was on Orchard Street and was going out of business. And I wandered in there years ago. And as they were taking this silk off the rolls, the paper was crumbling. It was that old. And I bought crimson, creamy white, slate blue, and black. And then, of course, after that, I went to the Guggenheim to see the great constructive art show.
Okay.
And I saw those colors. And when this piece came together, I realized, oh, I've got the silk for him. So those are going to be the colors of this piece. And there'll be these flat, you know, what I don't know what, I mean, it was sort of the zeitgeist at that time that everyone was working with this kind of cubist type image. Architecture, the whole thing mixed together. And so these flat surfaces. And that's what he'll be made of, but everything off-center, everything asymmetrical. So that's him, and let's see, this will give you an idea of, well, this is, this I just got recently. This is an old exit sign, and I'm going to use it for the heart of a piece, the devil.
Well, how come it's upside down? That's why. Okay.
But that's for an upcoming
Wow, that's a
piece of
beautiful
devil.
exit
Isn't it
sign.
beautiful?
Yeah, that
This
was
is
when it was nice to
gorgeous.
leave.
Yes. Well, depending on your point of view, it's always a nice place to visit, but you wouldn't want to live there. Okay, these are Fritz's hands, and this is the paper mache when it's in a fairly raw state. The hands are wire armatures, and this is covered with about 2 layers of paper mache at this point. It'll be built up, and then sanded, rasped back. This is the way the heads start, just really simple like this, and then they'll be built up into the eyes inserted and everything. It's pretty simple. Nothing. I try to keep it as low tech as possible because I can't even function properly on.
But
my
it's
computer.
actually very high tech because it takes a lot of procedure here. You can see you're building stuff up in various stages because you can't really make it all in one day. So it's like, okay, you'll work on these hands and you'll put a layer on and then you'll sand them down for a day and then you'll put something else.
That's right.
on.
It's slow tech.
Right. Slow tech. Right. Okay.
If technology was meant to speed things up, I'm going backwards.
Okay.
The original anachronism. So anyway, what else can I show you? There are pieces here for lots of guys, but there are all these tells, and then the rest of the stuff is just here to inspire me and keep me going.
What's this little piece here? Is that a sitting chair for the mirror or something?
This right here is where my cat sits, actually, now. This is an old piece called Rain. I used to do box sculptures.
Right.
And I was very interested for a long time now in multiplication of an image.
Who's the little person
repetition.
hanging out in the corner there?
That's a puppet from years ago, before I started using the glass eyes.
Wow.
And let's see. Here's one of these. You can't really see it too well, but this is one of the boxes that I did years ago, and it's the evolution of the idea. This is called the pencil box. You can't really see the darn thing.
Oh, is that cool? It's all made from little pencils put
It's pencils.
together.
The whole box is a mosaic of number 2 Mongol pencils.
Which we all live with.
Exactly. Didn't you just love those
Oh,
things?
yeah.
Remember the large ones?
Take out your number 2 pencil.
Yes, take out your number
Right.
2.
And who was the
It's
guy who
like
owned
crisis.
Mongol? Because he'd made a lot of money.
It's just sent many children to the shrink's,
Exactly.
couch. Yeah. Anyway, so this is it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Done with my left hand. But the whole thing was to actually just accomplish it, and I was very inspired by folk artists and outsider artists before people started calling them. I forget the name of the guy who coined the outsider artist phrase and then immediately regretted it. I understand, But before that, I was discovering people like Creek Charlie Fields and Grandma Prisbrey, and I've got a piece coming up, St. Peter, that's really an homage to Simon Rodea, who did the Watts Towers, and that's going to be using, broken dishes and things like that. I mean, to me, he's one of my archangels.
Wow, great.
But it really was this personal, something driven very personally, from some need, some internal need. And that's what I was seeing in these pieces that these people were doing. That was the best stuff I was seeing, current work I was seeing. So that's where this came from, and really this work is an evolution from that.
Right. Well, the work is spectacular.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely amazing. I don't even know if this can show the scope of it, because it's just so amazing. Look at all this. Maybe you'd step in the middle of the room and it would give us some semblance of,
Scale.
of the scale of this
Like
stuff.
Geppetto's workshop here.
Yeah.
Pinocchio, get your feet out of the fire.
Right. Oh, and they're all so beautiful, all these characters. What's it like to live with them all?
It's darling to live with them. When this guy came together, I had a rush to pull him, the puppet, actually. Worked forever on this. This box just took forever. There were 600 roof tiles. And just the chemical process alone on each tile.
Because each tile's copper, right?
Yeah, but it's copper foil wrapped around poplar. So the poplar was cut, the foil was wrapped, and in a very particular way, the way it was wrapped, and then 9 layers of a chemical process, and then varnishing with extremely matte. We were using pastel varnishes on this in order to keep it extremely matte and to not lose that dry quality, but to make it possible to stabilize it, because this patina is not stable normally. Then I had to get him pulled together, and I'm telling you, this gentleman, it was worrying me that I could do it. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I finally met him for the first time, because all of the elements came together, and I lifted his hand and I said, "How do you do?" It's really nice to meet you, because he'd been around in pieces for so long.
Wow.
So he's the grand gentleman of the room right now.
Right. Yes, and absolutely. All right, Chris, we appreciate the visit, and this was
thank you.
absolutely amazing stuff, and we hope that you do really well, and we'll hope to see you again. Okay? Thank you very much.
You're welcome.